I don't know. It is a record button.
It's very low. Big writing.
So.
More drink.
Top up on anyone that doesn't have any wine. Please, thank you. As a
If you force me not, I would never do that, Robert. You know.
I'm going to be standing here. My worst nightmare and Rob's as well. So
Make a start. Make a start. By the time I finished your... On you go, Laurie.
Alice has an identity.
well, what can we say about Rob?
Well, how long have you got?
I haven't asked everybody here, Rob, so don't worry. With Rob's retirement fast approaching, it falls to me to make a short speech tonight in appreciation of Rob, his achievements and the wider contribution he has made to Mollendiner Park in particular over the last 22 years. This wasn't an easy task because whether by design or by accident, Rob is a very difficult man to find out things about. I should have known that because he boasts that he doesn't have a mobile phone. So I knew I wasn't going to find anything on Facebook, for example. His biographies on both the Mollendiner and Reedvale websites are almost identical, and they're the only things I could find out about him in print without actually asking them. So I've included a few excerpts from these, but in search of something more, I asked a few people for an anecdote or their impression of the man behind the persona. I didn't want funny stories or stories about his altercations with the council.
Yeah, we do.
I know you did. Or the city planners, because these kind of things might raise a smile, and they have done over the years. But while they appear to be superficially amusing, those exchanges are intrinsically linked with the non-negotiable guiding principles behind the organisations that Rob has championed tirelessly for the last 38 and 22 years, while being at the helm of Reedvale and Mollendiner Park Housing Associations respectively. And we all have benefited in one way or another as a result of Rob sticking steadfastly to these principles. But where did it all start? Well, some of you, many of you will maybe know that Rob's a graduate of Edinburgh University and taught English in Italy from 1969 to 76. And on returning home to Glasgow, he worked for the Scottish Council for Single Homeless before joining Reedvale in 1977. He was appointed director of Mollendiner Park when it was formed in 1993. And Mollendiner Park was named as the Royal Institute of British Architects Client of the Year in 2001 and was the first housing association in Britain to be awarded this title. But housing isn't Rob's only architectural interest. He was chairman of the Glasgow Building Preservation Trust from 1988 until 2001. And treasurer of St Andrews in the Square Trust from 2001 to 2005. And he also lectured on architecture and housing at the Macintosh School of Architecture and the University of Strathclyde, which is where our paths first crossed. He might not have noticed that, but I did.
I didn't notice that.
And the Faculty of Architecture at the Politecnico di Torino La Terrazza, Università di Roma, and has contributed to a number of housing conferences in Naples, Munich, Nantes and Cardiff. For his work in exemplar housing development and his commitment to improving people's lives through the provision of exceptional living environments, Rob was awarded a fellowship of the Royal Society for the Encouragement of Arts, Manufactures and Commerce, and an honorary fellowship of both the Royal Incorporation of Architects in Scotland and the Royal Institute of British Architects. But for anyone who doesn't know why Rob has earned all of these honours, perhaps the story of how Reedvale and Mollendiner evolved their philosophies, ethos, allocations, policies and so on will provide some clarification. So here's a wee bit of background. Mollendiner Park Housing Association was formed by committee members of Reedvale Housing Association in 1993 to reconnect Reedvale with the city centre by promoting the development of derelict land east of the High Street. And the aim was to create and sustain socially balanced communities through beautiful, environmentally sensitive and affordable new developments, combined with an innovative approach to the management of its properties. This might seem normal to us now, or to those who've always lived there, but in 1993 this was way beyond normal. It was radical. Reedvale's mission was slightly different. It sought to promote the advancement of the community it served by developing bold and innovative community-rooted initiatives to enable residents of Reedvale to develop their full potential as citizens and to enjoy the benefits of living in high-quality, affordable housing managed in a caring and efficient manner. Initiatives piloted or first trialled in Reedvale have paved the way for citywide agendas that are now becoming part of the mainstream. For example, things like Glasgow City Council's Stalled Spaces initiative, which is now being rolled out across the whole of Scotland. Speak to anyone who's encountered him and you will hear that Rob is an enigma. On the one hand, he has a reputation for being resolute, formidable, and a force to be reckoned with, but on the other, he is visionary, supportive, generous, a great mentor, and a champion for the people. That's the people that he works with and on behalf of, and that includes the tenants of the housing stock of both Mall and Downer Park, residents of the housing stock of both Mall and Downer Park and Reedvale. But for those who do know and work with him, while he's sometimes frustrating, I won't say who quoted that, Rob's cool self-determination. Rob's cool self-determination. It wasn't. Rob's cool self-determination and self-belief tend to win out and carry the day. Rob has made a huge difference within the social housing movement and set the standards that most associations are still striving to reach. Some might describe him as stubborn, but only when and because he believes he's right. And in that sense, he's constantly stubborn.
I'll go with that, yeah.
You always find Rob the same way, and so everyone knows where he stands. Rob's tussles with the council in order to get things done in a way that will not compromise the overall objectives in terms of quality of design, quality of space, and above all, the quality of life of people living in the developments for which he's responsible will become the stuff of legends and are sure to be embellished over the years. But we'll endeavour to follow in your footsteps on that one, Rob. And your refusal to be put off by no, not possible, and impossible, and your ability to find another way, a better way to demonstrate that everything is possible, signify a unique can-do attitude wrapped up in what might, to the uninitiated, appear to be a difficult and immovable psyche, especially when he thinks Nay knows that he is right. I used the word stubborn earlier, and immediately I thought, when I wrote that down, oh, that's a bit harsh. For a description for a day like today, but having consulted my thesaurus, I found that stubborn equals obstinate, immovable, inflexible, willful, ball-shaped, intractable, and I left out some of the less complimentary, which many on the receiving end of Rob's ire or exasperation may agree with. Stubborn also equals persistent, dogged, tenacious, determined, and persevering, all of which Rob is, in the best possible way, and without which none of what he has achieved for his tenants and staff would have come to fruition. Rob has been described as some that I spoke to as a champion of design-led innovation in the social affordable housing sector, who raised the bar not just in design but in the creation of places that work for the people who live there. He's had to be tenacious to deliver against some of the allocation and financial policies of the council, but was enabled to remain resolute, drawing on his wider knowledge of the approaches of other European nations and the Danish model in particular, a route which has proved successful and which others are now following. I first met Rob around 1993 when I worked on the Energy Design Advice Programme at the University of Strathclyde, and at that time he was tutoring an Italian student, Umberto Romici, and who was working, I didn't ask about the Torino thing, but anyway, who was working with a colleague of mine, Kathy Robertson. And to be honest, I found him rather intimidating. At least I don't panic nowadays or want the floor to swallow me up when he corrects my Italian pronunciation. And then in the mid-1990s, I was fortunate enough to be asked to provide support on a high competition for innovative, sustainable and affordable social housing across the whole of Glasgow. But the shortlisted projects included the Gramesmere development by Alexander. And this was my first taste of a Mullen Downer, and to be honest, I took some convincing that a project as innovative as this would not be watered down during the design development phase. But happily I was proved wrong, and clearly I didn't know Rob then, or I would know better. In my view, Rob's most significant contributions revolve around sticking to what might appear to be radical design quality, placemaking or allocation policies that are in fact really logical and good sense. These policies result in places that work for those who live in them, and are the reason why we have lengthy waiting lists for almost all of our properties. If all, and I accept that someone has to house the unhousable, but if all housing associations followed a similar approach, then the world might just be a better place. It's not about saying no, we don't take. It's about looking at how we can accommodate without having a detrimental effect on our tenants who trust and rely on us. Unfortunately, the ability of housing associations to accommodate is being compromised by UK government health, welfare and housing policies. But that's a story for another day. However, rest assured, Rob, that Mullen Downer's philosophies and that good design can make a difference, and that 10% of anything is manageable will remain at the heart of what we do. What has been achieved, particularly at Belgrove, Graham Square and Moore Street, is unique, and yet they are all very different. This year has been and will continue to be a year of big changes. On the one hand, we can't believe that Rob has decided to retire, and although we'll miss him, we wish him all the very best as he starts his retirement with a well-earned break in the warmer climate of Italy and with this camera. Enjoy, Rob. Enjoy. On the other hand, we're all delighted that Julie Smiley has agreed to step into the position of acting director, and I'm sure that Julie will take up the reins with her usual great enthusiasm. And we're all ready to get right behind her by offering as much support as she needs in the first few weeks and months as she settles into the role. Many of the staff and ex-committee members gave me their thoughts, and I won't embarrass them or Rob with the details, but these included words like, or statements like, a fantastic mentor who's shared so much of his knowledge and experience with me over the years, and which will stand me in good stead in the future. He's made a huge difference within the social housing movement and set the standards that most associations are still striving to reach. A unique individual, and one that I respect immensely, even when I don't agree with him. Rob has been... Rob has been really supportive to me professionally and personally over the years. I think we've built up a really comfortable working relationship. And my favourite, Rob's dry sense of humour makes me laugh. I know that not everyone gets it, but I think he's really funny. I don't want to
Who said that?
I don't want to go overboard, as I know he'd hate it, and I'm sure he is. But I'll finish with a quote from Richard Murphy, who was kind enough to respond with a tribute that sums up Rob in a way that I could never have managed. You can do a good building without a good client. You can't do a good building without a good client. And if you ever need proof of that adage, you just need to look at what Rob Joyner has achieved. We first came across him as invitees to the original Graham Square competition. Beaten for the major prize, building prize by Page and Park, we were handed the consolation project of the derelict Meat Traders Hotel next door. Rob immediately took on my idea of semi-demolishing the listed structure and turning the usual internal common stair into an inhabited common courtyard with external stairs within it. He could see that, as well as being quite a photogenic architectural idea, far more important was the concept of a shared private communal space as a way of creating a mini community with shared responsibility. And he has been completely vindicated by the way in which the residents have taken ownership of it. With the larger project at Moore Street, he embarked on the massively ambitious idea of 4 architects working together on one site with one contractor. Design meetings were brilliantly handled, often with much hilarity and the most unusual bonhomie between architects. In the master plan, I think he was intrigued by our idea of asking each architect to build in the experience of the Graham Square courtyard idea. And in the case of our own project, I think he was as fascinated as we were with pushing the external stair idea to its limit. Again, he has been vindicated. Moore Street is a much visited project which genuinely does go into new typological territory. And as he remarked, everyone's kids come and play in our project. Rob was also very careful to take his committee and crucially his residents with him, and the consultation meetings that we had with both were genuine and in our experience of other housing associations quite unique. Since Moore Street, we have observed that as associations gobble each other up into even ever larger housing management monoliths, they are beginning to resemble the old-fashioned paternalistic local authority housing corporations that they were set up to replace. Rob represents, to my mind, the real spirit of the original movement, and Mollendiner Park is a true counterblast to that tendency. Writing in that is Richard Murphy's 21st birthday book, Rob quoted Ruskin, and he puts in brackets, and incidentally, how many other housing associations directors can quote Ruskin. When we build, let us think that we build forever. Let it not be for present delight, nor for present use alone. Let it be for such work as our descendants will thank us for. Ruskin must have been thinking of Rob when he wrote that, said Richard. Richard also said that he was really sorry to hear that Rob was retiring, and all of his favourite clients seem to be doing that at the moment. He also said hello and goodbye, and that he'll be in Italy this summer if you're passing by Venice. Personally, I'd like to thank Rob for his legendary achievements. Rob was instrumental in raising the bar, but the ethos of the association will continue. The housing association movement is losing one of its biggest assets, but we'd all like to reassure Rob that there will be a legacy, and we'll all endeavour to carry forward the mission and the vision of the association. Hopefully, if you're not too busy to keep an eye on us, you'll be able to keep up to date with our progress. But in the meantime, thank you for all you've given us, for setting us on the right track, and we'll do our very best not to let you down in the years to come, and to follow through with more innovation along the lines of our recent discussions at our staff and committee days. And I'd like to now ask you all just to raise your glasses.
Of course.
Rob.
And Julie.
And Julie. Yes.